picks in order to do that.
All right, Dan, what about Wilson and the Bears?
Well, I love it for the Bears. I mean, this is a home run for them. We're talking about a team that is under Matt Nagy 28-20 with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles during most of those starts. This also gives them the opportunity to get their premier quarterback and maybe keep Allen Robinson, maybe keep their prime free agent wide receiver. So for the Bears, it makes a ton of sense. For Russell, it's not a great situation when it comes to the offensive line.
What about Louis Vegas and Russell Wilson?
You know what, Raider Nation hates me for this, but I'm gonna stick by this. They don't need to get Russell Wilson. They have their franchise quarterback in Derek Carr, who by all intents and purposes, both objectively when you look at the data and you look at him on the football field, this guy is a winning quarterback. It's the defensive side of the football that really needs to be improved. I know they have invested a lot in that side of the ball, both in terms of free agents and draft selections. It's just been the wrong people because they haven't panned out. So they need to fix it if they're going to want to go anywhere.
Okay, Dan, what about a Russ for Dak swap? Does that solve everyone's problems?
I mean, it solves the Cowboys big time. I mean, you're talking about getting a better player for cheaper. As crazy as this would have sounded a year ago, this makes a ton of sense for Dallas. This gives them a player that's as big as the star, that's as big as the Cowboys brand. It gives them a quarterback that's going to be a great player for the next 8 years. It's cheaper than the one that they're dealing with when it comes to Dak Prescott.
This is fun, so let's carry it on. Former Cowboys wide receiver Michael Irvin weighed in on Russell Wilson, wanting in on Dallas, saying, quote, quarterbacks suddenly have the power to leave a team, but that also means they have the power to come to a team. Russell Wilson wants Dak's chair. Jeff Darlington with us today. Jeff, do the Cowboys have to be careful about how they negotiate and if they decide they want to actually make a play for Russ?
They do, Laura. Look, I don't love the way this smells or looks with Russ kind of throwing out there that he's willing to play for a team that currently has a quarterback, and the potential of the Cowboys flourishing back when they've got their franchise guys sitting there. That being said, it would be negligible on the part of the Cowboys to not at least look into this. Now, whether they make the call or not is where this gets dicey, where it gets sticky. Last year, for instance, the 49ers were definitely interested in Tom Brady. Whether people want to realize that or not, they absolutely were. But they handled it tactfully and strategically to the point where it did not turn off Jimmy Garoppolo and create a fractured relationship. That's where they have to be careful here. Things could get personal if, in fact, the Cowboys were to make a run at Russell Wilson. They're going to do it. They better be smart about it.
Yeah. Listen, Darlington's right. The Cowboys have to call. This is an opportunity to go get a quarterback that's one of the best 3 or 4 in the NFL. And again, it would be cheaper than the contract that Dak Prescott is likely looking for. That being said, if I was Dak Prescott and this situation arose, I would want to know if they called. I want my reps to find out, because if they did, I'm gone. I'm done. You can kiss my time with the Cowboys goodbye. I'm not even signing the franchise tag. I am 100% gone, because at some point you're going to stop disrespecting me. That I sit here 8 days from now, has a decision has to be made, and I need 100% of your effort to be towards getting me to a new deal. Not 90%, not 95%. That being said, if the Cowboys call, you better get them. You better lock them down. Because if you call and it goes bad, you could lose out on Russell and Dak Prescott. So this is an incredibly delicate situation for the Cowboys.
I could not agree more. If I'm Dak Prescott, I'm telling you what. I'm trying to get phone records. I'm trying to get everything. I'm trying to see if I can even read Dallas's mind. I want to know if you're even thinking about it. Because if you're thinking about it, I'm telling you, I'm out of here. Yeah. So either way, I'm just gone. And look, and we've seen that. We've seen how people get sensitive about those kind of things, especially in Dak's situation, where he has done enough to go ahead and earn what is coming to him based off of what he's done in the past and what he could still do in the future, provided that he's going to be healthy and he can keep himself healthy going forward. So he's earned that contract, and they need to go ahead and build out the rest of this football team, because Dallas's issues are not just about quarterback play, and we know that. We know early in the part of this season, the early part of 2020, this defense was historically gross. It just was. That's just a fact. So with Russell Wilson, although you may be getting a little bit of a bargain in terms of how much money you're paying him relative to what Dak may get on the open market right now, remember this. they still do need assets to fill a roster up and to kind of patch up some holes that right now are gaping. They're not holes. They're big fissures like in the surface of the earth big. So they have some issues going forward. They better take care of this quarterback. And you're right, if they don't get Russell Wilson, you better not let Dak ever find out that you were trying to. Because otherwise you're going to be sitting there going, we have nobody now.
Yeah, we gotten in. I think that's geology, the fissures of the earth there here on NFL Live. You never know what's coming your way. I have two questions, so we're going to start with Jeff on one here. You've got until March 9th to get through the franchise tag period. A franchise tag would have to be assigned, Jeff, but they could stretch this thing out again until July, right, for things to be signed. I realize nobody knows what's going on here, but what does your gut tell you? I mean, this thing stretches on, right? There's no way it's done with Dak and Dallas in the next 8 days.
Right. Well, Lewis knows because he's putting GPS trackers on people's cars to make sure that they don't do anything without him. Sounds like the guy's stalking. But look, you're exactly right. And here's the deal. We didn't expect them to put the franchise tag on Dak right away. They want to have good faith negotiations, but this is exactly where we were last year. We went into this exact same period. They ended up slapping the tag on Dak on March 9th, and then they extended it to July, saying we're going to get it done by then, and they never got it done. It continues to get harder each and every day until you reach that deadline. So we'll all keep watching. We'll all keep wondering.
Yeah, and if they slap the tag on him one more time, you got to think that that's the last time that they'll be talking about any contract with Dak in Dallas. Dan, we're talking about this conversation of this trade of player for player, Russell Wilson for Dak. We kind of went through how they could do it. Should they do it?
Should the Cowboys do it? Absolutely. I mean, if the Cowboys have the opportunity to go get Russell Wilson, listen, I think you talk about signing Dak with the intention to trade him. You go the 10th pick in the draft. You can go with your second rounder this year and maybe even throw in a player like Lyle Collins to help that Seattle offensive line. Should Seattle do it is another question. It comes down to what's it about for Russell Wilson. I am adamant and believe that this is bigger than football. I believe that this is a long-term play 20 years from now, that Russell Wilson wants to be the Magic Johnson of the NFL, to build that brand. If that is the case, his mind is already up. So then the answer for Seattle would be, yeah, because eventually he's going to force his way out, get as much as you can for him now.
But I just think that Dallas needs to be awful careful here about trying to, provide Russell Wilson the vehicle by which he can live out all of his dreams, that go beyond the football field. I am big on relationships. And there are some other effects that this could have on this football team in Dallas in a negative way if they wind up having a guy who they drafted, they groomed, they developed, who suffered through some very bad seasons, suffered a horrific injury. We're going to assume that he's going to come back from it, and then he's going to be sitting there right now waiting for you to go ahead and make him the franchise quarterback in terms of a new contract, and then you just trade him out for the next guy. That could have a very, very bad impact on their team building going forward and their locker room going forward, one that you can't put a price tag on. You have to be very, very careful of that.
That's a really strong point, and especially when you think, too, about how that locker room is spoken about Dak Prescott. He is beloved there. All right, the news of the day is what we're getting back to. J.J. Watt, is there